that he was born in Sekwa. We all know that because he talks about it all the time. And the late John also did talk about Sekwa a lot. In the Bunuahafu region. He gained admission to the School of Administration, now the business school, at the University of Ghana, and completed in 1986. He was trained in petty trading and akpeteshi distilling and palm wine tapping. I don't know how those are related. Apart from these, he is a former banker. He's a member of Parliament par excellence and a trained teacher. He began his political career in 1989 when he was elected to represent Sekwa at the first Wenchi District Assembly. He contested as MP for Wenchi West constituency and served as MP for the constituency for 12 years. During his term as Member of Parliament, he served on several committees, such as the Appointments Committee, Finance Committee, Public Accounts Committee. He was also chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee, minority spokesperson on Food and Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs. I think that's what you're most known for. And he was also elected to the Consultative Assembly, which drafted the 1992 Constitution, and has been the General Secretary of the NDC for 16 years. Now, you get the clue. He is a man of many colors. He's done extremely well for himself. And it's cliched, but I would like to... why do people call you General Mosquito? And why do you accept it?
Well, let me begin by answering why I accept it. Because being a teacher, you are given all sorts of nicknames by your students and so on. So once you are given a nickname and the students realize it is hurting you, then it will continue. Okay, so as a teacher, I realized that if you give me a nickname, the best way to shame you is to adopt it.
So it was given to you by your teachers?
No, by the
members,
MPs. MPP members. And so I decided to shame them by adopting it. And now what was meant to be an insult to me is now something that has turned into positive, and there are so many people naming their children after General Mosquito across the country.
if I didn't know better, I'd say that, oh, why did the NPP do that? But I know that the NPP and the NDC in Parliament, you people are brothers and sisters. So I'm sure it was in good faith. But
no, it was in very bad faith.
Oh, was
actually.
it?
Yes. You know, it was during my work on the Appointments Committee where I took a principal position against a particular nominee for a ministerial position. And
you mind sharing?
From the beginning, yeah, I was nominated as a deputy minister also for forestry.
Oh, okay.
And it's now late.
Oh.
Honorable Seikufo,
who
had worked with a state timber firm before and had you know, bad records at that timber firm. And so I didn't think it appropriate
for
the state to reward him by making him a minister to go and
short justice. He couldn't be a judge.
From the beginning, I had a lot of support from both the NDC and PP side. Then sooner than later, the whip system kicked in and rallied all the MPP on his side, and then lobbying and other things came to play. Religion. 200.
But you know, General, that's one of the things that people don't realize about committees in Parliament. That sometimes it's not just the person's party, but religious affiliations, your caucus. If you belong to, let's say, Central Region or Western Region or Bunuahafu Region.
In the council, and the MPP were insinuating that I was like a rebel. And in those days, one of the notorious rebels in the West African sub-region was General Mosquito of is it Sierra Leone also. So they decided to begin calling me General Mosquito. And so when Mosquito, so it stuck.
I'd like you to spend maybe 5 minutes.
I've been mostly a self-made man. Okay, And my life has been characterized by a lot of contradictions. I was born into a rich family. My maternal family side was very rich cocoa farmers. But because of the riches, I nearly suffered because they took a position. So I was picked up on the streets by the then young pioneers of Kwame Nkrumah, because there was free universal compulsory education.
FQ.
That was proper FQ. For which reason, if you don't send your child to school, you could be prosecuted and jailed. So I was picked, and that was how I went to school. Then after in school, well, I performed so well, and all my teachers were recommending me for further studies, but my uncles would not budge. They felt that they were ready to give people loans to finance their children's school fees and so on, and then those people pledged their cocoa farms, and we will then be sent there to be harvesting the cocoa. And so on. So I was like an apprentice cocoa farmer. Then my uncles, I was given a terrible beating. They wanted to beat this education thing out of my mind and so on. So an incident happened where my uncle was attacked. And so on. Let me go, the schools are in session and so on. So how do I go? He said, whatever it takes.
So then they paid you away.
Then it had happened that I felt I was getting stale after I left school. So I offered to support my school, the students prepare for exams, to keep my mind alert. So I decided to register and write for the entrance. I found 14 CDs. The form was 9 CDs, and I had to take pictures and all that. And then I did. So it happened that around the time my uncle was insisting that
he was going to pay.
He was going to take me. I got to training.
Time and chance.
Yes. So it has been happening.
Well, that's what I thought we were going to concentrate on. But everybody is itching to know what you did yesterday.
Yes.
The letter.
Yes.
What do you think? Obviously, I know what you think.
Very, very simple. I had to print the Constitution, and so some of the duties are pleasant, some are not so pleasant, and so on.
But what's your personal opinion?
My personal opinion doesn't come in at all when I'm operating at an official level. I feel satisfied that I have done my duty according to.
But let's just so let's not put it on him. But let's say that. Would you say that if a person did the things that are listed for him to have done, would the person have acted anti-party, and would it warrant the person being dismissed?
Yes, that is the opinion.
That's your opinion on the matter.
Opinion of the
as per the articles of
yes, the articles are there. You know, the membership, the decision to be a member of any organization, it's a decision to surrender part of your own freedoms and so on. So you subject yourself to the Constitution and the rules of the organization you voluntarily chose to join. And so he went into this with his eyes fully opened. I'm sure he was not forced to join NDC. He went involuntarily, and before you join NDC, you are provided with a copy of the Constitution, and the Code of Conduct of party members is read to you, and you accept to go by those. And then the disciplinary code and everything. And I'm sure because he happened to be one time deputy. Hearing? Yes, he was given the opportunity for fair hearing. An opportunity is offered. That is what the law says.
But he didn't avail
himself. If you choose not to avail yourself, that is your personal choice. So he was given all the. But that's why it appeared to many party members that he was being pampered, because the process was longer than usual. they were making, the disciplinary committee, according to their report, was making every effort to convince him to avail himself of the opportunity of being heard. But he declined that opportunity.
For a group of people that criticized your opponents when they expelled 2 people from their party, someone will say, is this not a bit fresh that you'd also do so?
No. They are different things altogether.
How different?
You know,
different strokes for different
you have your constitution, all right. But besides the constitution, there is the due process. And every organization operating in a democracy, whether it is stated in your constitution or not, you are required to implement or run the organization along the same principles as are contained in the constitution. So once somebody offends the rules of the organization, you have to give the person opportunity to be heard. There must be due process. But there's
accusation also space for summary dismissal in such circumstances.
Yes,
in any circumstance.
Yes, in any, and that is what we have done. But you.
No, I'm referring to you saying that when it happened in the case of the NPP with Paula Foko and Kwabena Jepong, and you guys were very vociferous about the fact that you felt that it was unfair.
Yes.
And then you go on.
Because they were not giving any hearing.
But that's what I'm saying, that there is always space for summary dismissals in any situation. And that could have been what happened. Right?
No, there is no such space for punishment without being heard under our constitution. And every political party has its own constitution that is subservient to the national constitution. So to the extent that your party's constitution conflicts with the national constitution, then it's null and void. So our problem was that they were not processed properly. They were not given fair hearing. And that wasn't the first time. I know about the case of Kakra Samoa in the past. He participated in the radio program. Then after that, there was an announcement that he has been dismissed from MPP. You understand?
Then would you juxtapose the Kakra Samoa one with Alote Jacobs, who, although was not expressly expelled, it was obvious that he was not welcome.
No. He was also processed through due process, and the conclusion was what was implemented. We never dismiss anybody without being heard.
But what's this with political parties dismissing people when politics is a numbers game?
No, if you have the wrong numbers, then it is disadvantageous to you. You see, every organization is run according to its rules, and an indisciplined army can never win any battle. So it is better to have, people who are disciplined, who can, come together and achieve a purpose, than a group of indisciplined lot who will not respond to any command.
Could it be said that
you should not encourage a situation where discipline in an organization will break down?
Could it be said that political parties in this country are becoming intolerant to the extent that dissenting voices are not being tolerated?
No, NDC is the most tolerant political party by our practice, because, as I told you, there were many people who were calling for the head of Nketiah the whole long time, more than 6 months, 7 months ago. You understand? And at some point in time, some of us were even being accused of being in bed with him, or either sponsoring him from behind to do certain things which we couldn't do, and so on. But we remained focused and said that, look, everybody must have his day before the disciplinary committee, before any sanction is applied. So we remain focused. We never got carried away by emotions. We put our thinking caps on, and then allow the act of justice to run slowly.
You expel him almost to the day that his mentor, his father, is everything in the NDC passed away, which I'm sure is a very emotional time for him. Is it to kick him where it will hurt the most?
No. Our timetable, the way the timelines were running, were not looking at other things that were happening in the environment. The report was submitted to my office late last week, and I needed to get it approved by a meeting of the Functional Executive Committee. So the Functional Executive Committee was held yesterday. So I had to keep the report confidential till yesterday when I submitted it to the FEC.
I know that you wouldn't have any way of knowing how he feels about his expulsion, but talking about his mentor, Professor Mills has been gone for a while, and I think on the 25th was his passing anniversary. Yeah. Did you do anything as a party to mark his passing, or are we to expect anything?
Oh yeah, personally I was not in town, but an event was held. Yes, was held. But you see, this idea of Atta Mills being the exclusive mentor to Kwaku Ndoho is false.
So you tell us, was he mentored by other people? Did you get a chance to work with him? What was he like?
I have not been bragging about my relationship with Atta Mills, because I don't brag about my relationship with big people. I knew...
Because you are a big person yourself.
I knew Professor Mills...
Because you are a big person yourself.
Way back before Kwaku Ndoho meet Professor Mills. Professor Mills was my lecturer at the School of Administration. He taught us... tax. Company law, taxation, and all those things. Then I happened to be, he took a personal interest in me because he felt that my performance in the law, lectures was outstanding, and he kept telling the class that if we were in any other jurisdiction, I would be exempted from the exams. So anytime he was absent, he asked me to step in as pseudo TA. So they started calling me associate prof. So that's how I almost became his pet boy.
Okay, so
and then before I left university, and then when we got together again when I got to Parliament in 93, and then he also found his way to becoming the head of the GRA or something. And I was on Finance Committee, so he was bringing his things for approval through me and so on. So the relationship continued, and then he was nominated for vice president. We all supported it. And then it was through him I got nominated as deputy minister for agriculture.
Oh yes,
and all that. So it has continued. In fact, anytime as a vice president he was traveling and the travel had any agric content, he chose me even over my bosses.
Okay.
And so we've traveled a lot.
But
I don't make too much noise about relationships.
Talking about relationships, you had a very interesting relationship with former President Rawlings.
Yes.
There's a photo that is going. I've seen for ages of you taking copious notes as he spoke on a certain podium. I don't know if you've seen it. And
I've seen it, but unfortunately, that's not me.
That's not you?
No, it's somebody.
Oh dear,
it's somebody's special copy.
I honestly thought it was you. But even beyond that, when I was working here at GBC, I would see you at the castle on occasions with him. I'd see you at functions with him. I thought you were his
almost always rallies in Akan speaking areas. I was always there.
Yes, I remember very well.
Particularly in town, our favorite
teacher was.
So
what could have gone so wrong?
There was nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. It was all the noise that was going on was manufactured by the press and some.
You had an excellent relationship with him?
Excellent relationship.
Until his passing?
Yes.
For real?
Yes.
Did you visit him when he was...
I had a problem with the wife, but not Jerry Rawlings.
So you were friends with him until his passing?
Very close
friends. You would sit and converse with him?
Did you see I don't know whether you monitored his last June 4th celebration, which was
don't
virtual.
Particularly recall.
It was virtual. I didn't. Yeah. He selected a few people. I was then in Boko. He
And you're one of them.
He called and insisted that I should come and deliver an address, and I came. And after my address, when he was, he mounted the podium to speak, he said that I have preempted everything that he was about to say. So he
because
that.
Obviously you did know him very well.
We have worked together very well.
You did know him very well.
Because I was a Nketiah and all that before coming to Parliament, and he took.
And I have to mention your relationship with the late Kwabena.
Yes.
Another interesting one.
Yes.
And then with Sir John, another interesting
very
one.
Interesting.
And so how did you juggle all these relationships? Because I'm asking this because I want to go into the politics of our country and how its architecture is and how people can easily misconstrue.
I try as much as possible to remain very trustworthy with my friends, no matter the circumstance. So that's how I have survived in all these relationships. In fact, there was a time where the relationship between the Vice President, Professor Mills, at that time, and the Agric Minister, Usua Champong, both of blessed memory, were not so good. But I was a deputy minister under Usua Champong, and I was also the pet boy of
the Vice President.
And I made sure that no discussion from one person
going to the other.
I
thought you'd say you created a platform for them to make up. But what do you think of a secretary or general secretary of a very prominent political party? 16 years is a long time.
Yes.
Don't you think
it's certainly a long time, but as I was narrating to you, my life has been controlled by choices that were basically not made by myself. Circumstances put me in certain positions, and I just, after resisting some of them for some time, I now took a decision that, look,
there's a divine hand somewhere.
Yes, let Ghanaians use me for whatever they want to use me. I'm not going to insist on what I want again. So that was...
when it comes to politics, we seem to have a very sharp divide among the citizenry. Working as a general secretary of your party, politics has evolved to the extent that now there's a lot, the real voice or the real driving force of political parties, as I have come to see it, is from the grassroots. How are you managing them? Are they the ones sort of pulling the ropes, telling you what to do, what not to do? Because that's how it's looking like.
Well, you see, I don't have a godfather. And the reason I don't have a godfather is that I see myself as a man of the masses. So
you don't need a godfather.
I don't need a godfather. So most of the things I listen to the masses.
To the masses.
A lot. But I don't just follow what they are saying. If my position places me at a point where I have better information than what is coming from.
Would you tell them even if it's going to cost you?
Yes, I do. And that incidentally has helped me a lot to build my credibility a lot among the masses, because they know that I don't just pander to their whims. If I know it is wrong and what they are doing will hurt the party, I'll stand against them and then tell them that this one is not on, and I always succeed.
But it seems as if lately there's been a lot of conversation between the political class and the people that vote for them, to the extent that a good example, the events of 7th January in Parliament, there was a lot of pressure from outside of Parliament for the political class to act a certain way. Did you feel pressured by any of the things that went on at all as a political party? Or did you give pressure to the MPs at all?
Well, to the extent that we demanded they should act in a way that will serve the interests of the country, yes.
Okay.
Because Parliament is not just a collection of individuals. It is an important organ of state, and it has a role to play. So if at any point in time citizens find out that that role is not being played, or they have reason to question aspects of the way that role is being played, they have every right to voice out and then to demand that the right things be done. And so I never feel shy of demanding anything from Parliament as an individual and also as a General Secretary of the party. The same way, I never feel shy of demanding anything from the judiciary as an individual and as a General Secretary and the executive and everything, because that is what keeps democracy going. The moment we stop holding people to account and holding state institutions to account, then the democracy is beginning to die.
As somebody who's been a member of Parliament before, and also a Minister of State and now General Secretary, do you appreciate her? How do you appreciate the kind of the extent or the effect of the interference from political parties? Because sometimes you want to conduct parliamentary business, but your party is asking you to do a certain thing. The whip system will come into play, and sometimes, just sometimes, you might not go according to what you
is that what you call interference? That is not. That is not interference.
What is it? Tweaking?
Parliament is the house
of the people.
Of the people, commoners. You understand? So we are not even doing it enough. I believe that the population must demand more from Parliament and more accountability from what Parliament does, because that is the House of Commons. It is rightly described in the UK
as a House of Commons.
A House of Commons, you see. So Parliament is not doing it enough in Ghana. So I will urge political parties, NGOs and all that to demand that Parliament rises to their responsibility.
I'm going to ask you about what your thoughts are on whether a General Secretary of a major party like the NDC should also hold a position as a board member of a major arm of government like Parliament.
But before in dangerous ground.
But before I do, just your views. I need to keep my 9 to 5. I need to keep my 9 to 5. But before that, I'd like to ask you why it's a bit old, but people keep asking. The NDC's boycott of the IPAC. What was that about?
Listen, because you attend a forum and expect certain things to be done, certain reasons why a forum is attended. If you have reason to believe that the forum is no longer performing those functions, then it will amount to a waste of time to want to be there.
So you felt that it had
that is the thought. IPAC has been shifted from the main reasons why it was established in the first place. IPAC was formed, conceived and formed to be a forum for consensus building. It was never meant to be a forum for dictatorship or one-way transfer of information and all that. So once it has departed from consensus building,
in your view,
then there is no point.
Was it just the fact that
it is just about electoral commission transmitting what they have decided to political parties, and that is why they will call us. We have written to them.
Did you feel the same when you had Charlotte Osei as the EC chair?
No, the records are there about how Charlotte Osei managed the place, how she tried to achieve consensus.
Because you appointed her?
No. There are concrete pieces of evidence. After the what do you call it? The court case in 2012. Afarijan established electoral reform committee made up of representatives of all political parties, civil society, whatever, all stakeholders, and we went and did some reform proposals which were adopted by IPAC for implementation. When Charlotte Osei came, she continued with the implementation, and when we ran into some difficulties, controversies about whether there should be a new voters register or not. Charlotte said never dictated to us. He said that, well, there are concerns that have been raised by some political parties, and we are interested parties, so we as Electoral Commission are not going to take a decision. All those concerns must be ventilated at a public forum covered by all the media houses, at which our development partners, everybody, stakeholders were there. So we held that function. She established a committee that will, adjudicate the issues and so on. It was chaired by the former chairman of electoral, shall I say chairman, a former electoral commissioner, Justice VCRAC Crab Committee, you remember? And that committee conducted those hearings. We met at Alicia Hotel, all the media was there, it was telecast live, and MPP did their submissions, other parties came in and so on, and they presented a report to IPAC for adoption, and we all adopted that report. That is what we mean by consensus building. It is not a situation where Jim Mensa decides that I am going to do a new voters register, whether you like it or not.
Do you remember the logo when and Charlotte is my personal friend.
Yeah.
But do you remember the incident of the logo where she said, we saw it, we liked it, and we adopted it? And so more
yes,
like
it has nothing to do with...
It was still a decision that was taken.
You know, you can classify the decisions two ways. There are administrative matters, matters that have to do with the company, logo, image, design of letterheads, and so on.
But is that not indicative of something
They
else?
don't detect any bias or any... They don't affect, how fairly an election is conducted. Whether an election is conducted and results printed on a paper, a letterhead with a moon as the symbol, or the star, or anything else. It doesn't change the result.
I don't think it's...
So there are certain things that are within the corporate responsibilities, which the chief executive has the power to
I think
take.
what I'm trying to drive
it has nothing to do with
I think what I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
drive at is the fact that if you talk about people taking decisions that are either ultra vires their powers or unilateral, is this not indicative of it? So it's not necessarily the choice of the logo, but the action that went into it. And I'm attached to that because I don't think, I have so many questions I'd like to ask you. Attached to that is the fact that, what do you think, and this is not just for NDC or MPP, of the way governments after government decide to remove key people in key positions when they find themselves in political spaces because they don't like the color that this person is wearing?
Can you mention some of them?
No,
I don't have any instance. I don't have any instance.
But I'm
to
talking
talk
about chiefs, executives.
This is the first time. The most dangerous one is the people leading the Electoral Commission, because it is the institution that holds, that facilitates the process of holding governments accountable by the people. So the moment you change that one, then everything else can change, because every wrong thing that you do in government, your day of accountability is election day. So if you have a way of compromising the elections, then you are a dictator. You can do whatever pleases you, because nobody will remove
Would I be right in saying that you may have some concerns going into 2024?
Oh, the concerns are being ventilated, and they are
you going to seek redress?
The same concerns that existed before 2020 are still persisting, and that's why we haven't let down the fight. We'll continue with it, and then I'm sure many people are beginning to understand our side when we're talking about the type of things that could lead to violence. Many people didn't listen. Committee of eminent persons, National Peace Council, and so on, they thought we were making noise. We ran into election, and for the first time, we lost 8 lives in an election. Now they are calling us to find out how we can make the future elections violence-free. But all the ingredients
But it's not our
violence,
interest to do that, isn't it?
it's our interest, but those who have the power to implement those things are not willing to do it. And so we are going back. Listen, you know what causes violence in election? No, the root cause of violence in election is if you allow impunity, free range. For instance, if you allow a situation where rigged resource is allowed to stay, and there is a cover-up, and there is a wrong court process, and so on, and people begin saying, oh, once he has been declared winner, let us accept it. The message you are sending is that it doesn't matter how you win.
A win is a win.
A win is a win. So people will abandon campaigning and begin to plan things that will cause a pronouncement of their victory. And that is dangerous. You understand?
Yeah.
So unless we can have a credible system where people can rely on it and say that, well, even if I'm being cheated in an elections, it doesn't matter. If the wrong results have been announced, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there is something that can overturn the wrong thing. If we don't come to that point, then our democracy is still not safe.
Any what do you call it, can go to court matter? Any you know what can go to court statement here?
No. This is not an issue. What I have said that any idiot can go to court. And it was in a different context. You understand? It was in a different context. If I say any idiot can go to court, I mean there are people who interpreted it to mean that I say all those who go to court are idiots.
No. But obviously,
I'm sorry, it's a problem of logic.
Obviously, if somebody felt aggrieved by something as monumental as an election which they felt that they won and was a stolen verdict, and that statement was made, you see how that can be interpreted?
No. Somebody was asking me that you say you have won, but the matter has gone to court. And I said that the going to court is something that citizens in a democracy can do. So everybody
has the right. Yeah, everybody to go in court.
Everybody has the right to go to court. Let me ask you: have you heard of any situation where somebody is denied access to file a process because, in the opinion of the court class, that person is an idiot?
Not yet.
So filing a process does not depend upon your level of intelligence. I'm saying when I say any idiot can go to court, it means that intelligent people can go, imbeciles can go.
I think imbecility is not allowed in the court. I think imbecility is not allowed in the court. But I'm going to speak to you about Article 71 office holders.
Yeah,
but before we do that, what are your thoughts? And you know I value your thoughts.
I'm already planning to see whether the wives of general secretaries will be put on salary.
Before we get to Article 71 office holders,
yes.
What are your thoughts about complete separation of powers? Do you think that maybe it's time to abandon the hybrid system and go there?
No, you see, theoretically, you talk about complete separation of powers. But complete separation of powers actually never exists anywhere. It's an utopian idea. Even the American example that we keep on quoting, it is not complete separation of powers. There are checks and balances too.
But that's what the complete separation is supposed to do.
If you do it without the checks and balances, then you are running a chaotic system. So I think that speaking from my experience as a member of the assembly that drafted the Constitution, there are certain provisions that were useful at the time that I find no longer useful now.
Yeah.
That is not
You're
to
referring
say
to
that
the Constitution 1992?
Yes, the 1992 Constitution. I represented Manchester Street in the drafting.
In the
So the situation there and then is different from the situation now. So I support the idea of the constitutional review. So we
which Speaker Bagbin has been talking about.
Yes, we have all been talking about. We have moved it to a point where we established, Professor Tamils established Constitution Review Commission, whose membership nobody has had any problem about, and then the implementation committee, all the reports are ready. The first bills were presented to Parliament, and then somebody took us to court. By the time the court case was over,
what was the court case about? Please refresh our memories.
Somebody felt that I think it was about the procedure.
Oh, due process.
The procedure for the constitutional process. You know, there are several articles that were affected by the review report, and some of them were entrenched, others were not entrenched. They were packaged in different lots. Those who were entrenched will be moved through a different process. Those who were, and there was an issue about the issue of a white paper. You know, after every commission presents its report, the Constitution says that a white paper must be issued within
a certain number of days.
A number of days, otherwise the report becomes null and void. But this was a constitutional review, and the government wanted to distance itself from whatever is contained there. And we had sufficiently distanced ourselves in government at that time, up to that point. But we came up with this constitutional provision that unless a white paper is issued, then the whole report risks to become null and void. So we debated this extensively in cabinet and decided to issue
the white paper.
Immediately the white paper was issued, then MPP and other people jumped up and said that if it is a national process, then for one government issuing a white paper was problematic.
Probably instead of a communique.
That was what. But
were they asking for a communique instead?
No, but the law was very clear in the Constitution that a white paper had to be issued. You understand?
Yeah.
So that was what. So the matter was sent to court, and the court cleared the way for the process to continue. But it was too late. It was somewhere in October or so in 2016.
So elections were
Parliament
coming.
was already rising,
and there was fraction of time and everything.
Unfortunately, we lost the election, and this government had never seen the need to move the process forward. So it has comprehensive provisions dealing with this separation, you know, which I support.
Yeah.
That the MPs must focus on the work of MPs.
Because of the person paying the piper calling the tune.
Yes.
And the overlaps, and, you know, I think that's what makes Parliament, you know, not have a good image, because the expectations sometimes of citizens of the executive are transferred to the legislature.
Because they are part of the system. And matters have been made worse when President Kufuor came to power, and he established certain precedences which are since been followed. In the past, we were not allowing ministers of state to sit on select committees. But it now happens. So it's like a minister may find himself you know, going to review his own report, the report about his sector, and so on. So
we have less than 10 minutes to go. So I'd like us to. Are you an Article 71 office holder?
No, I'm not.
You're
an
not.
Article 71.
What are your views?
I used to be an Article 71 office holder when I was a member of Parliament. And, you know, many people are debating these things without reference to the background to Article 71. Article 71 came to being as a means of solving a particular problem.
Which was?
You know, when we finished with the Constitution, we realized that certain institutions have been created in the Constitution. And all those institutions, in order to function well and independently, they must have financial independence. If you allow the executive to control their emoluments, then it's like who pays? Who pays the piper
will call the tune.
And so those are the ones that were named in Article 71. So we deliberated as to how their emoluments can't be established. You talk about the legislature, the MPs, a speaker, and co. You talk about the presidency. Of course, the presidency will not be affected by control of emolument. But because they hold so much power, if you don't restrain them in a certain way, they can also create any salary for themselves. Then you expect the judiciary not to be controlled by finance minister or anybody financially. So the judiciary, and then the commissions,
yes,
members and so on. So we made all their emoluments a direct charge on the consolidated fund, so that the government in power will not have any control to vary their emoluments to their disadvantage. And then when their paths cross, if a minister should find himself in court, the judges will not be looking behind to see whether they
otherwise you are going to problem. You will not know
if somebody, a minister, comes to parliament, then people will not be scared to
but even so with the
so
power.
Because of this, we then said that, well, they are a direct charge on the consolidated fund, all right, but how do you determine them? Then we said the president, when it comes to power, must establish a committee, and that committee would make proposals for emoluments for the executive, those in 71 that belongs to executive, those in Article 71
so
that
it's a
belongs
matter,
to this, and
of scratch my back, I scratch yours.
And Parliament will be given the power to approve the emolument of the executive and all the others. But the Parliament's own emoluments will then be approved by the president. You understand?
Yeah.
So that is how far we could go with this. So when the committee is established, it has a clear mandate stipulated. The list of persons they are to deal with their salaries are listed in Article 71, and that list is exclusive. Everybody is there for a purpose. So far, about 5 committees have been established.
You find
in the Fourth Republic.
The inclusion of the spouses of certain office holders
completely ultra vires, because all the 4 earlier commissions never made any attempts to add any other person. So for this committee to go out of their way to add spouses, but it means they want to amend the constitution through the background.
If let's say a former spouse has received allowances in the past, would you say that based on the current discussions, everyone must return whatever they've got or they got in the past?
Listen,
or allowances are
this discussion is focused on a particular work that a committee was established to do. And that committee has returned a report that in many respects are ultra vires. Because look, nobody is complaining about allowances paid by government or any state institution to anybody, but an attempt to identify spouses as belonging to the category of officials whose salaries should be a direct charge on the consolidated fund is completely unconstitutional and wrong. So the government must own up. Because why? Is it only the spouses of president and vice president that receive allowances in the open? No, there are several allowances paid. Nobody has complained. But they are paid in the context of monies that are dispersed from the finance
now you
minister.
illuminate me.
It has nothing to do.
For you, it's not the allowance per se. It's the umbrella under which it is coming that is an issue.
They are raising them to a status of Article 71.
Had the Article 71 cloak not been put over them, you'd have been fine with it.
The president has several options. If the state decides that a category of persons must be paid salaries. They can go to Parliament to create the position first, establish the position by law and its functions, and then the monies that should be paid, the same way as public servants are paid. And then they can be held accountable. You understand? But you cannot just pick the wives of some people, add them to Article 71. And said
but it's completely wrong. Happened? I hear we have 2 minutes, and in the 2 minutes, I have two things.
And I have my own problem about the role of first ladies. Yes,
yeah,
because we elect president, we never elect first ladies, and the president is
or first gentleman.
Yes, or first gentleman and so on. Have you heard the husband of Angela Merkel or this? Mayfair or somebody in UK and all that. Have you heard their husband playing any role in government? Not.
But they do charities.
No, you can go and do your charities. It has nothing to do with the state. But to classify, you see...
Perform any state function in the sense that you put it?
Well, if it's called to perform a state function, state create the position that we have a first lady's position, and this is the duties so that the taxpayers can hold that person to account. But unfortunately, you see, we are making it look like presidential mandate is sexually transmitted.
I knew that was coming. But you know, I was
we elect a person. We don't elect the spouse.
I was trying to say that I don't think that, so far as I know, that they are playing any official role in the sense that you are speaking.
So why are they being? Are you requesting that we should bring them to the status of cabinet ministers?
So in effect, what you're saying is that give them allowances if you may, but just don't put it under that. I hear we have 2 minutes. I think you have a very beautiful mind. I told you that in Parliament the other time. It's not because you are working on the board, but I think you are a very excellent material. I think you've been very lucky. Do you feel lucky? Do you think that the world has been kinder to you than a little? Don't you think?
I think that God has been kinder
to you.
Yes.
Kinder.
Yes.
And
Yes.
And I hear your kids are abroad and they are very, very accomplished.
Oh, I wouldn't say so. I have.
I will be modest here.
3 of my kids outside, and my wife just. Left to visit them.
You must be a rich man.
And then 2 are here. No, they went there. My wife went there when we were in opposition during President Kufuor's term, and I was being ejected and.
But you see, General, I again, just because of benefits of experience and opportunity, I do know that sometimes it's even best if your party is in opposition for certain politicians, because then. They get things that they normally would not get when their parties are in power.
No,
do you ever feel like that?
No.
You subscribe to President Kufuor's...
in Ghana, you can never feel comfortable in opposition because of the way...
You know, my career started here in GBC.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to meet people like you that sort of held my hand along the way, directly or indirectly. Yeah. I'm here today because it's a homecoming and there are 86 years. So I'd like you to wish GBC a very happy 86th. So the floor is yours, sir.
Well, I would like to wish GBC a very happy 86th anniversary. I think that people have complaints, and I would say that your record has been, within the circumstances, has been very good, and the state could do better by providing the needed support. Because I grew under Nkrumah and I saw how we had external service of GBC and all those things. At that time, GBC was an icon on the African continent. I think that we share part of the blame as politicians. We can do that to build GBC, to restore it to the enviable position that it used to be during the First Republican era.
Do you have any specific moment in your times with GBC during your political career that GBC did something monumental, usually positive rather than negative, that stood out for you? Do you have any experience? Because I remember that you were almost a fixture here, Talking Points, you were here, Breakfast Show, you were here, News Conference, you were here. I mean, you have always been here.
I think that from the point where GBC was taken to court about equity in allocation of
airtime,
they rose to their responsibilities as a state media organizations, and they've performed creditably well during difficult moments like election times and all that. And I think that is commendable within the constraints. I keep on saying, you know, we could do better. We could look at GBC and see what we want to make of GBC. You can have a situation where you have in America, it's a state broadcasting organization. You may, you know, allow it to, I mean, whether you can structure the financing of the organization so that it can compete favorably the same way as CNN and others are doing. But if you leave it there, and we have already opened it to stiff competition, and yet they are not able to source funds from how the others are sourcing funds, then you will be killing.
On that note, sir, we'd like to thank you very much. It's been amazing talking to you, and I hope you do tell the board that I'm a very good material, so they should increase my salary.
I'll leave my comments till we meet there.
So thank you very much.
Other comments.